Okay, uh, my name is Mac Eochaidh Re, and I'm going to introduce Gael Linn and introduce myself. I'm coming to you live today from the very centre of Dublin, Gael Linn's head office, and Seamus will introduce himself shortly, and this is going to be a reduced Shakespeare company version of Gael Linn. And if you can come with me now on a small journey back to the 1950s in Ireland. And at that time, the state was only 30 years or so in existence, having secured independence from England. And when the Irish state was set up, there were aspirations that the Irish language would be reinstated. But if we fast forward from 1922 to 1953, and we have a radical group of men and women who had just graduated from university, and they gathered together on the 29th of March in the Imperial Hotel in Cork City, and they wanted to continue their interaction, their intervarsity interaction, when they moved into real life beyond university. And they wanted to continue some of the good work. They wanted to build on the aspirations that they had. And what they wanted to do, more than anything, was to do the work that the government said it was going to do with regard to the Irish language. These people were impatient, these people were intelligent, and they said, they committed to gathering the resources necessary to give the Irish language Cothram na Féine, which is an Irish language term which means fair play or fairness. And at the time, the Irish language was not in the healthy state, even though we wanted to be more healthy. But at the time, it wasn't just as healthy as it is now. And the Gaeltacht, for example, was suffering badly from emigration. And just to say, if you don't know what the Gaeltacht is a number of Irish language speaking areas, mainly on the coast of Ireland, the western seaboard, and down to the south, and a little part in the very centre in County Meath. And we also have neo-Gaeltachts, would be urban Gaeltachts, which Belfast would be an example of that. So again, the founders of Gael Linn, men and women, the very intelligentsia of their era, had £200, which would be about £8,000 today. And what they decided to do was set up pools, football pools, if you don't mind, based on the football pools in England, although the results would be based on Irish games, Gaelic football, hurling, and camogie, played by women. And people bought a lottery ticket to take part in these pools. And that's where Gael Linn got its name. But it's a very clever name because it means three things. It means Irish with us, Gael Linn. It means Irish pools, or Irish pool, really. But it also is the way you would say the name for the Irish language in Southern Irish, Gael Linn. So very clever people. This is a little example of how these people were very crafty. And the country was poor, but they were able to gather a lot of money very quickly, mainly because they plugged into the spirit of the nation. And what they did to promote the Irish language and its heritage, I might add, because no good just having a language if it doesn't have the cultural context or the social context. They set up bingo halls, which brought in more money. They had wonderful film operation and newsreels that they played in the cinemas as a preliminary to the main feature film. They set up a record label, which is still going to this very day. And they also set up a number of industries in the Gaeltacht, which I mentioned earlier on, like oyster beds, like rabbit farming, market gardening. They also set up a furniture factory. So these people were really, really very, very imaginative and creative, and they were operating in a time that was pretty bleak economically and also for the Irish language. So Gael Linn is celebrating 70 years in operation, and we're very, very proud of our founding fathers and mothers. And I personally met these people, these towering individuals who came from a legal background, a business background, also a philosophical background, were in Gael Linn when I arrived 30 years ago. And we have a book on the story of Gael Linn. It's a remarkable story, but Gael Linn was a social enterprise before that notion was popular, and it was a language-based social enterprise. Fast forward until 2014, and Gael Linn was appointed by Forras na Gaeilge, one of the cross-border language bodies set up to promote the Irish language and Ulster Scots. And there are 6 Irish language lead organizations, and Gael Linn's responsibilities as a lead organization are, number 1, policy, monitoring policy at primary, secondary and tertiary level. Seamus is going to be talking about that later. The second responsibility is to ensure that the standard for adult learners of Irish outside the official school system is improved and supported. And the third responsibility, which is where we spend the most of our money, and that is language usage opportunities outside the classroom. It's very important. We always say that people learn the language in the classroom, but they fall in love with the language when they're doing when they're going to the Gaeltacht colleges, when they're involved in debating competitions or public speaking competitions. And we also have this fantastic new scheme. It's 10 years in operation. It's called the Gael Bhreatach. If you can think of the blue flag for beaches that are really that you can swim in, if there are many of those left, or also there's a yellow flag in Ireland for schools that really help to include as many nations. For inclusion, really, that's what you get, the yellow flag. This is the Irish language flag. It is a beautiful purple colour, and if a school is flying the Gael Linn Gael Bhreatach, you can be sure that they are really working hard to promote the Irish language. So if you just go on one more there, Seamus, and that brings us on to Seamus. So I'm handing the baton over to you now, Seamus.
Yeah, so it's Mr. Seamus Mac Eochaidh. My name is Seamus Mac Eochaidh. I'm the Educational Policy Officer with Gael Linn. So I'm going to spend a short time talking about sort of how important the youth are in everything that we do. The youth are definitely at the forefront of all our operations as an organisation and education as well. Just sorry, I suppose the first thing will be in reference to our summer colleges in the Gaeltacht area. Well, I'd say it's what we'd be most famed for to an extent in contemporary times will be our summer colleges, where traditionally people or students aged 11 to 18 would spend a prolonged period of time immersing themselves in the Gaeltacht community, staying with a local native speaker of Irish. At the moment, we have two colleges. First of which is College of Waharorty in Donegal, which was created in 1974. And the second of which is Bunanimber, which was created in 2007. Raymond and I were talking about this earlier. We don't think there is anything similar of its ilk anywhere else in the world in terms of immersion, and it's something that we're very proud of. Over 28,000 students go to the Gaeltacht areas in other colleges, and there was a stage where Gael Linn had 4 colleges. Now we have 2. There are sort of threats, we have to admit, to the summer colleges at the moment through a number of reasons, but I suppose we would need more than 20 minutes to discuss those threats. But it's something that we're definitely very proud of, something that I attended myself from the age of 11 years old to 18, as Irish is my second language and English was my first language. Just moving on, just as Raymond had mentioned, sort of the pioneers of Gael Linn at the start in the 1950s, there were a number of schemes in which children had moved from Gaeltacht areas, so areas outside of the Gaeltacht, into the Gaeltacht area and stayed with family hosts for a period of 2 or 3 months in order to become fluent in the language. As part of our work with the youth, we have a number of schemes at the primary level. For example, we and I do apologise, they're not going to be an overly comprehensive description of the schemes just due to timing, but we have Currim, which is a drama celebration and festival, and festivals are held all over Ireland for Gael Sculna, which are primary schools that their immersion settings, so that they immerse themselves through the language of Irish. And they're welcome to take part all over Ireland. On top of that, we also hold Féil Chapella. So last week, for example, I was actually in the Donegal Gaeltacht myself at one of the Féil Chapella, which is a Gaelic football festival for children aged 10 and 11 years of age, where Gael Sculna are invited to Gaeltacht areas and compete with and against local Gaeltacht schools. And that's a massive thing for us. I said last week, the big thing that we witnessed was a spirit of schools coming from outside of the Gaeltacht, immersing themselves with the local Gaeltacht schools, speaking in Irish without the pressure put on them, I suppose would be the big thing to say. And everything was language based and immersion based as well in terms of through the language. It does create friendships for life, and that's where we really do put emphasis on, is creating networking for children at that age. Moving on to the second level, and as I said, to be honest with you, we have that many schemes at the second level. It's hard to talk about them all in depth. But the first photo you can see on the left is from Scienza this year. And Scienza is one of the sort of most prestigious competitions for young traditional Irish music and singing groups, all delivered to the language of Irish. As you can see, here is Uachtaran na HÉireann, the President of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins, who was in attendance this year due to the fact that Gael Linn were celebrating 70 years of existence. The photo we can see here is from Scléip, which is a fun talent competition for Irish-speaking secondary schools all over Ireland, with a particular focus on contemporary style arts. You can also see here a picture of Díosprachtaí. So Díosprachtaí is Aber, so this is a public speaking competition, and these two photos to the right of it are also debating competitions. Fun fact, and I suppose the big thing with these is that you always want to try and tell a story of sorts. I myself took part in Aber when I was 16, 17 years of age. And I suppose the big line that we have as an organisation is there's always a value and a result to what Gael Linn does. And I don't think that I'd be sitting in the position here today without the schemes that Gael Linn offered over the years. So to Maheen and Waker Fad, I'm very grateful myself on a personal note for all the schemes that have been done over the years. You can also see here at the bottom left, this is a new competition that we're running for a podcast competition. The next is a Comórtas track director, so a commentating competition for the GAA Sports Gaelic Games. And then at the bottom here, you can also see is the quiz, which is for year 10 students, which is 13, 14 years of age, mostly all of whom attend English medium schools. So therefore, this is their chance really to get on the ladder of learning Irish, as they call it, something that I also took part in myself when I was 13 years of age. So as Raymond said earlier, we are very proud of our scheme, which is to create natural opportunities to speak Irish outside of the formal classroom, and that is what Gael Linn does. It's a recognition scheme for schools for the hard work that they do in terms of promoting Irish, both Irish medium schools and English medium schools, both primary schools and secondary schools in the whole island of Ireland. To be honest with you, we would need at least 2 hours to talk about the work that Gael Linn do, but we're more than happy to discuss with anyone afterwards if anyone has any questions about the scheme, or we're happy to send on the links. Just again, Finch Shaw, Bugger Marai, Huggett, or Raymond Shin Maglor.
Indeed. So Seamus spoke about the primary and the post-primary level. Moving on in seniority and taking the baton of Seamus, we have schemes for adults, and starting with the university, we have a wonderful debating competition for universities that offer Irish, and most of them do on the island of Ireland, and we don't shirk away from difficult topics when we present the university, the third level students, with their motions for debate. And we have preliminary rounds, and then we organize the final of our third level debate at what is known as the Oireachtas, which is it's a big event featuring Irish language singing, sean-nós singing also, all sorts of events connected with the Irish language, meetings, an amazing event. It would be like the Eisteddfod in Wales, only and when we held that event at Halloween, it's always around Halloween, there were 300 in attendance at the final of our third level debates, and they were discussing does Ireland still deserve this label of being a country of 1,000 welcomes? And you know, there are arguments on both sides there. So another competition in a similar vein, but focused on students who are taking a legal degree. We have Mac Eochaidh Re, named after a former president of Ireland. And again, even I was surprised with it's really a moot court in the Irish language. And indeed, these competitors were discussing in very minute detail technical legal issues relating to very complex legal cases, some of them even dark legal issues. And it's a wonderful prestigious competition which we hold every year. And we believe, Gael Linn believes, that we cannot put all the responsibility of language revitalization on school children. Adults need to take up their responsibility also, and we like to provide a context for adult learners, and we organise Gaeltacht courses which run for a week in the Gaeltacht, and we also have some scholarships for adults to attend the Gaeltacht, and they're really wonderful opportunities. Incidentally, we have Irish language classes here in headquarters in Dublin, but also on Zoom, and we've initiated a wonderful partnership with Celtic Junction Arts Centre in St. Paul, Minnesota, whereby we assist them in mounting their online classes, and we were able to work with St. Paul's Celtic Junction Arts Centre and double the number of adult language learners on Zoom. And then Zoom is great and this is wonderful, but you need to actually bring people together face to face to really improve that social context. And we assisted Celtic Junction Arts Centre in St. Paul, Minnesota, the Midwest in the United States of America, in mounting their second intensive Irish language course, and it was very successful. We showed some of our films. We engaged our chairman, give a talk about the amazing history of Gael Linn. So there are many exciting opportunities, and Gael Linn is always attempting to be at the forefront and trying to move with the times. And passing the baton back to Seamus there.
Yeah, just as I mentioned earlier, my own role as educational policy officer, and as Raymond had mentioned, part of our responsibilities as an organisation lies in Anna agus Monotracty and your policy and da realtas like checks na gilligan an onion verla. And what that means is basically it's our responsibility to analyse and monitor policy relating to the teaching of Irish in the English medium sector. For us, that was a massive reason why we wanted to become a part of Bilingualism Matters. The first time I had heard anything about Bilingualism Matters was a keynote speech given by Antonella back in October, I believe. And for us, it was that we could really delve into the depths of best international practice and what the research says. Just as a quick overview, because we really are running out of time and we don't want to hold you too long. But as part of that, we do write a number of statements and anything in terms of anything comes out regarding any updates and regarding educational policy, both north and south. We also get involved with the local educational authority here in the north to try and have strategic development plans, plans that we take to the education authority, and then they have to act upon it as part of their statutory requirement. Furthermore, and again, we could really talk another 30 minutes about this. We're very proud of being the founding member, and Raymond being one of the founding members himself, of An Gréasáin, which is a subject union for Irish teachers that gives an independent voice for Irish teachers in all matters regarding the Irish language in terms of the subject in school. And we're also very proud that we released a number of pieces of research, and we fund a number of pieces of research into the Irish language as a subject. All of which, the most recent, is the Irish language in English medium post-primary schools in Northern Ireland, which is written by Mr. Desi Tennyson, who was also a founding member of An Gréasáin, which is also available at the link above here. We do understand that we're under a wee bit of time constraints, so Tá much fear we are fad near some of the couple of around and Raymond and Jerry. No,
just a final thought from me. The more progress we make with regard to the Irish language within Gael Linn and with our other partnering organisations, the more we see that needs to be done, because although we're painting a very positive overview, there's still a lot that needs to be done. And although the context has certainly evolved and the media that Gael Linn employ has changed over 70 years, our mission is definitely still the same, and that is to strengthen and widen the use of the Irish language and its heritage. Guracéad maigah.
Or Maigah.